Thank you for downloading this podcast from the British Theatre Guide. For more information about British Theatre Guide, please visit britishtheatreguide.info.
I'm sitting in the terrace bar of Soho Theatre on a gloriously sunny June day with two actors who are currently in rehearsals, I believe, for The One, which is the award-winning, the Verity Bargate award-winning play by Vicky Jones.
Yes.
Of Dry Right. So we can cover some of these issues later rather than me doing an introduction the last 25 minutes, which I easily could. And the two actors are John Hopkins and Tuppence Middleton.
Hello.
Hello.
And they are both best known, I think, for screen work rather than stage work, though they have done a fair amount of work on the stage.
I'm sitting upright then, slightly, and bristling.
The man who has just played Benedict opposite Melga Deutsch in Much Ado About Nothing is bristling already, so I'm doing well here.
Yeah.
First of all, would one of you like to tell me about The One? I don't mind which of you who fancies doing it.
You can go for it,
You're the
John.
lead, Tuppence, you're the lead.
I'm not the lead. The One is a play about a very toxic, dysfunctional relationship. It's very funny, it's very violent. We kind of watch this couple's lives unravel over the course of about an hour. And
The play's an hour.
The play's an hour over the course of an entire evening. That's why John should have taken the role of explaining the play. That's it in a sort of nutshell.
Yeah. Okay, and for those that aren't aware of the play already, it was first performed in about 2014 with Phoebe Waller-Bridge, who comes from the Dry Right Theatre Company, or co-founder, I think, in the role that you're playing.
Yes.
Sorry, you, Tuppence, are playing. I should be careful on that.
Yeah.
And she, I imagine, is very famous now for Fleabag, which was also from Dry Right, directed by Vicky Jones, the playwright of your play.
Yes.
It's very incestuous, this.
Yeah, monstrous.
It is.
And Fleabag has been on all kinds of TV stations, major hit, etc., etc. I was suggesting that certainly Tuppence wasn't arguing with me about more screen than the stage work. What made you two, and again, whichever you want to start, decide that you wanted to act in this play rather than anything else you could have been doing at the moment? Go and save the money, please.
That's it. You are a good kidding.
Yes.
I knew the play last time. I've known Vicky and Phoebe and Rufus, who played the part I'm playing last time, and Steve, who's directing it. I've known them all for ages.
That's Steve Marmion.
Steve Marmion, who's directing it, and he's the artistic director of this great building. And I was a huge fan of it last time. I kind of wanted to be in it last time, but I wasn't free. And they didn't want me. So I was really familiar with the piece. And also have, since The One happened, have been cheering from the sidelines as Phoebe and Vicky have gone from strength to strength. So when it came up for me, I have done quite a lot of stage work. I'm not well known for it because you don't get very well known doing stage. But
you are.
Having done quite a lot of Shakespeare and quite a lot of classical and period stuff and things at the Globe, I was really interested in doing something which is incredibly current and very contemporary. So that was the appeal for me, is that the brevity of it, the wit of it, the modernity of it, and how it seems even more relevant now than it perhaps did when it came out in 2014. Do
you want to explain why it's more relevant now than it was 4 years ago?
So a bunch of reasons, really. One of them is that there is an argument, or there are a series of arguments about what sexual consent is, what sexual aggression is, how you define that, who gets to define that, whether it is the person on the receiving end of the act, whether consent is something which is implied or has to be spoken. All of those things, which I think post Me Too, post lots of things, Cat Person, the story, the Aziz Ansari article, sort of even hotter now than I think they were at the time. So that's, I think, going to be very interesting, very exciting.
Not to mention that Nina Rain's play Consent is currently in the West End.
Indeed, yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, you've hit the time, you've hit the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. For better or worse, I don't know. I remember certain speeches last time that were delivered by Tuppence's character being sort of quite shocking, but perhaps shocking because they hadn't been articulated. Whereas now, those arguments are being had both on social media, on op-ed pieces in blogs, and in pubs and cafes and bars already. So it's going to be contributing to an existing debate in a really interesting way.
And Tuppence, how about you? What was your reasoning behind taking this?
I'm sort of the other end of the spectrum to John. I'm a total theatre novice, and
I've seen you on stage before.
Only once before.
Well, I've seen you in the one thing you did.
Oh, yeah, thanks.
Jermyn Street to Grand Green play.
Yeah, a long time ago. Yeah, and I think I felt like my comfort zone was screen, and I was sort of waiting for the right play to come along. And I hadn't seen this one when it was on a few years ago, and I didn't know Vicky or Phoebe or Steve or anyone. So I felt like it was nice to do it and not have that pressure of having seen it or worrying that it's going to be... Well, I still do worry that it's going to be compared to that production, of course, but I didn't have any frame of reference for it. So, it just felt like the right play, I think. Like John said, it felt like a really good time to be doing it, and it's kind of a really irresistible character, Jo. I think she's very contradictory and challenging and fun, and
Are you contradictory and challenging and fun?
I don't know about all three. I mean, I don't know if I can say that I'm fun. I think everyone's all of those things, and I think that's the point. Is when you first read the play, certainly Jo comes across as very kind of manipulative and kind of monstrous and cold, and actually there's a lot more going on, and she is kind of like...
It was a working title for the play, wasn't it?
It was Monster, yeah,
Monster
or The Monster or something.
To describe you,
yeah.
I'm afraid.
But I think that I found her quite relatable. I mean, not in the sense that I am like Jo, but I think that it's kind of, if we took our filter away and if you said whatever was going on in your head, that maybe sometimes you would say some really hurtful, nasty, truthful things, and I liked that she had the confidence to do that.
Yeah, she doesn't do anything or say anything that's not in the territory that John Osborne characters, male John Osborne characters set throughout the 60s and 70s. She's absolutely, and it's just it's fantastic that something that fierce and on fire has been written by a female playwright for a female character.
Yeah,
massively, not long overdue. But
I think one of the strengths for me of Dry Wright's work is that the characters are very, very real. You come into a theatre and quite often you have to suspend your disbelief, or you're watching a Graham Greene play that's from 50 years ago.
Yeah.
You're watching a Shakespeare play that's from 400 years ago, and you can understand many of the facets, but they're not people you are going to bump into in the bar afterwards.
Yeah.
If you're really unlucky, you get to bump into the characters we play in the bar.
But there are people, I suspect, very much like that.
Definitely.
Yeah, and I think what it does, it's a sort of pressure release for the audience, because they are hyper articulate and entirely devoid of censorship. They're unself-censoring, incredibly articulate, and able to play games both with each other and with their sort of plaything, the friend who comes around.
It's sad when the friend has to be described as a plaything, but it's probably not inaccurate.
Yeah. Steve keeps describing her as a gazelle, walking into a room full of lions. And it's breathtaking to watch that happen. I think for an audience, it's really extraordinary to watch people who've given themselves permission to do that. You wouldn't necessarily want to be friends with them or spend time in real life, but it's a sort of.
But it's very seductive when people can do that, when they are able to sort of function in that way. Not really function, but when you see people working at that kind of speed, it's something intoxicating about it.
Yeah.
And is it fun portraying people like that? Again, John.
It is. It will be. At the moment, we're in that place where we did a read through, and it just flew off the page, and it was so exciting and so alive. And there is, as we've said, a speed of thought and an ability to tell on a sixpence, and an articulacy which we are now trying to catch up with because we've put the scripts down and we're just learning the words and saying the words. But I'm certain it will be. I'm certain. You just caught us at the end of week 2, but I'm certain it's
well, we all think we're rubbish and we're leaving. No.
It's going to fly. It's really going to fly, and it's going to hopefully make people gasp on occasions at just what these people are willing to do to each other. It reminds me a lot, and Vicky, I think, is inspired by Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. It's got that level of articulacy and permission where it seems that nothing is off limits. And in that, weirdly, I think, talking about what the internet has done, what social media has done, what people being aware and hyper-aware of their behaviour has done, people are quite cautious these days because of how quickly a tweet can go around the world. People are very cautious, a lot of people are very cautious about saying the wrong thing or doing the wrong thing, perhaps rightly so. But these are people who seem to be completely unconcerned about causing offence and, in fact, almost thrive on it.
And that's really funny to watch a lot of the time.
Is it funny to be in the middle of a lot of the time? It
can be. It's also really exhausting. A lot of the time I've gone home at the end of the day feeling a bit drained. But, it's It's a tricky one. Some days I feel really sort of alive and full of adrenaline, and then other days I just feel kind of sucked dry.
Yeah, and they go to some very dark places, and they go to physically dark places. There's some violence in it, there's some sexual content in it, and that's interesting because we've had an intimacy director, which I've never had before.
Who was also our fight director.
Yeah.
So we
so
worked through moments.
Fight and intimacy.
Yeah, but he's very good at it.
Same guy.
Same guy.
Yeah.
And it was, he was amazing. I've never had that.
Brett Yount, he's wonderful.
Hi, Brett. Yeah, never had that before where someone's talked. I don't know whether it's you usually do that in theatre, I don't know.
I don't get to do any sex scenes, that's why I took this job.
Right. Yeah, I think
I'll only observe that I've been reviewing for the best part of 20 years, and I've never heard the term intimacy and director before a minute ago. So tell me what an intimacy director does.
Well,
if you're there.
Our intimacy director basically talked us through any kind of moments of contact, whether they were fighting or sex basically. So we just talked through it in stages, what both of us were comfortable with, what we're trying to achieve visually, and how we can get away with that without actually doing anything that makes anyone feel uncomfortable.
I wonder if this is a development of the Spacey, Harvey Weinstein, etc. era.
Very possibly. Brett has said he's been on several intimacy directing courses, I think, in the way that you would go on fight directing courses. Because, I mean, partly people want to be protected. Like, you as an actor want to be protected. I as an actor want to be protected. Potentially, either be protected from something bad happening or being protected from being accused of something bad happening in production. Everyone wants to be covered. And it makes perfect sense, because with both fighting and another thing that begins with F, you don't want it to actually happen, obviously, but you want it to look exactly like it happens. And there are areas of physical contact where you want them to believe one thing without it in any way occurring. So in a way, it dovetails perfectly. It makes perfect sense. And it makes us feel a lot safer that there's an outside voice almost leading you, or at least saying, we're going to do this if that's okay with you or not.
It's like a dance.
Yeah, it's like a dance.
The first few days I think we were avoiding doing any of those scenes or any of those moments in the scenes. We're just like, we'll deal with that. And then once he came in, it felt like really easy that we could run the scenes and not dread those moments or worry about what was the right thing to do. He was really good.
Because you don't want to just go for it.
No.
Like, you wouldn't do that in a fight, in a stage fight.
Let's just see how it goes.
I was feeling it tonight, so I punched you an extra time. I know you did. But with those sort of sex things, potentially that is how people used to do it. I just went with it tonight. You hear stories from back in the day about that happening. I just went for it, so I just ripped your blouse open.
Yeah.
F you.
Yeah.
Like, it happens. So I think it's great. Great. Yeah. Very good.
Have you actually started performing on the stage yet, or are you still?
No, the excellent Blueberry Toast has their set in there at the moment, which is full of spoilers, kitchen equipment, and blood. But so we've been upstairs in. What's so great about this building is that there's stuff happening in 3 spaces all the time, potentially 6 or more shows a night. So we're in one of the spaces during the day, and then they have to take our markup, our taped markup up to let the other shows in the evening. Not yet.
Tuppence, I'm interested in your feelings about working on the stage. As you said, most of your work's been either film or TV, and extremely successful. War and Peace is one of the big ones.
Yeah.
Has this come as a surprise to you? Is the rehearsal, by the sound of it, is a very different process?
Yeah, it's. I mean, I feel like I'm in really good hands. Like, I was so glad when I found out John was doing it, because I'd obviously heard a lot about his work. I think he's really good, and he's very experienced and brilliant at what he does. So I feel like that's my main scene partner. So I feel in very good hands. But yeah, I'm definitely nervous about it, and I feel a bit rusty. And most people go to drama school or go and train off the back of falling in love with theatre at school or youth theatre or whatever, and then they do mostly theatre when they're training. And then it just so happened that for me, I left, and that's what I started doing with screen, and so that's how it went. But it's nice to be doing it again, because that's why I originally wanted to be an actor. But I do feel I needed this process, because I just didn't want to leave too much time before I did it again. Yeah. Otherwise I would have forgotten and probably been too scared to do it. So, but it's really, I love this space. I think it's a really lovely, intimate venue, but at the same time, it's perfect for this play. I don't think you'd want it in a theatre that was much bigger than this.
So when someone I was going to say, sorry, I can use a term that would be misleading here. I was going to say when someone suggests the West End transfer, but since we're sitting about 50 yards from Oxford Street,
we're in the West End.
We're in the West End. Instant
but
transfer.
If, for example, critics sometimes talk amongst themselves and say this one looks like it's been cast for the West End, and this one, at a quick glance, looks like it could have been cast for some part of the West End. Are you saying that you would be uncomfortable if it took off and someone said, let's bring it into Shaftesbury Avenue or something? Just something, maybe a bad example, maybe more Trafalgar Studios.
It's got a bunch of Trafalgar Studios vibe, I would say, partly because of the length of it. We ran it today, and it's just around about an hour, maybe a bit longer.
Yeah.
So, it's... Yeah.
No, I think no, of course not. I just think that for me, in a purely selfish way, the first 2 months of the run, I think I'm really happy that it's in this space. It feels, but I also think it really suits being in this size space.
Yeah, it's sort of like a boxing match contact sport.
Yeah,
it's quite nice. You want to see it up close, I think.
Yes, I agree.
I always thought, it's not an enormous. It is the main house, and it was in the main house last time.
It was, right?
But it's you're up close. Even the furthest seat isn't that far. You're really near to it. You can see the blood, sweat, and tears.
And there is an awful lot of probably each of those three.
Hopefully not blood.
No.
If there's blood, something's gone wrong.
We haven't planned for blood.
Plan for blood. It's early days.
Has the script... So I explained originally produced 2014. Has the script been rewritten or updated at all?
There are a couple of technology references, I think.
Yeah.
There are a couple of apps that are now so prevalent that to refer to calling a minicab in 2018. Sorry if you're a minicab driver, I'm really sorry about that. It seems a little anachronistic. So there are a couple of those references, but otherwise, no, nothing.
No,
nothing at all.
I don't think so. No.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have thought there was any reason to, but some writers just love rewriting, and some directors just love.
Vicky's pretty.
Yeah.
I mean, it's stayed the same, and Vicky's been very present as well.
Oh, that's interesting.
Especially in the first week.
Yeah, she watched her run through yesterday.
Watched her run through, and she's.
She faked like she was very excited. She did a good job. Yeah. Yeah,
it's great to have her on hand as well, and it's interesting for her, I guess. I mean, I can't speak for her, but she was saying that she, was in a very different place writing it the first time, and then coming back to it is quite an interesting process for her, I imagine. So, exciting.
And she was writing it for, I think she was definitely writing it for Phoebe.
Yeah.
So she was writing it for an actor, which is obviously very different when it becomes just a play that's out there that you give to other performers, that it becomes us. But I think that's maybe when things take off, because I sometimes think this is going to sound arrogant. I think sometimes the job of the actor is to tell the playwright a bit what their play's about, or to unearth things.
Sometimes it's too close.
To uproot things that they're not necessarily aware were in there. So I think that's what you bring to it. Like, you kind of show her things that she wasn't aware of that are in there.
I don't know.
Do you think it's helped you a lot not seeing Phoebe Waller-Bridge?
I think it's helped me enormously. I do get nervous about comparisons, because Phoebe's brilliant and has a huge following.
I'm just going to put on the record that I'm nervous about comparisons to Rufus Jarrod Wright, because he's a friend of mine. And, I genuinely love. Yeah, it's the same thing.
Yeah. No, of course, with anyone who's done any part before, I guess. I think I'm so in my head. I'm so aware of it having Phoebe's name attached, but I didn't see it, so there's no chance I don't know.
Yeah. And it wouldn't
do an impression.
No one would want that.
I don't think so.
That would be totally pointless.
Yeah.
John Tuppence, thank you so much. The One is playing at Soho Theatre from the 5th of July until the 25th of August. I think the opening night is round about the 9th, if I remember.
We've got about 3 press nights.
I think so.
Quite understand it.
Yeah,
we've got a bunch of press nights.
Just because you're so popular and so many press nights come in, clearly.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you so much. That's fantastic.
Thanks for having us, man.
You've been listening to a podcast from British Theatre Guide. For more information, please visit britishtheatreguide.info.